Welcome to another episode of Unima Talks with your host, Sherwin Rakal. Tonight I'm really excited. I have a really awesome guest in line. His name is Mr. Jim Kroupa. If you don't know, Jim Kroupa is best known for his work on Sesame Street, the Jim Henson Company. He's done work with Between the Lions, Eureeka's Castle, Bear in the Big Blue House. He's done so many other things. Gullah Gullah Island. He's done some work on Barney. He's one of the best mech and puppetry teachers you can ever have. And I'm happy to have him, Mr. Jim Kroupa. Here he comes.
Yeah.
How are you
Hey,
today or tonight?
yeah, we're doing okay. Yeah, I'm finishing up the project. I promised them the end of the month. I
Uh-huh.
haven't heard of it, so I'm guessing that's good. And anyways, get it out of my
Yeah.
hair.
Uh-huh. You have a lot of hair going on there.
Yeah, I'm growing it long. I'm gonna do the ponytail thing and then hack it all off in the spring.
Oh.
It's the things I
Good.
do.
Oh,
Grow
beard.
thing.
Yeah. I like the
How you
beard.
been?
I've been good. I've been good. Been good. Had an exciting day today.
Yeah.
You're a little shaky there,
So
Jim.
it's it's 8 o'clock at night there right
Yeah,
now.
we're in our wild part.
Is it 8 o'clock?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You guys are in daylight savings right now, so if it weren't, we'd be in the same time zone. Are you
Oh,
there?
okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm hearing you. I'm not seeing you very well. You're stuck.
Realize that.
Yeah.
I brought it down to the shop. I wonder if
Oh,
that's big. I could go upstairs. It might be better.
it might be. We're so
Yeah,
far away from one another.
let me walk upstairs.
Yeah.
All
We're
right.
getting
You,
the tour of the Krupa household.
yeah. This is my dungeon.
Yeah.
The puppet messy stuff is in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so maybe oh, right here. Is
Oh, there you go. I
that
see you.
better?
Yeah, and I see you a lot better now.
Okay, so all I got to do is turn some lights on. Hold on, we're in the
Mhm.
dark. I'll go over here.
Mhm.
Probably see better. That
At
better?
least, yeah, that's a lot better now. We were getting bad reception down there.
Yeah, this basement's full of because I got forced hot air heat, so there's a lot of venting metal
Hmm.
everywhere.
Hmm.
So even my cell phone sometimes downstairs doesn't want to work very well as a phone.
Yeah,
So
I can see you and hear you clearly now.
good, good, good,
Well,
good.
welcome to Unima Talks. We talk about puppets. We talk about the things we like about puppets. Talk about the things that we may not like about puppets, and we talk about how we got into puppets.
Oh, okay.
I've heard some stories at the O'Neill with you, and they're interesting. So maybe we should document some of those stories for your Trinidadian audience, because you don't have a Trinidadian audience yet, but you're gonna have one now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's puppetry. I started before there were the Muppets that even anybody knew about the Muppets. When I was a kid, we saw a lot of Bill Baird marionettes, and we'd have puppet troops come to the school and do shows and stuff. And then in our next town over, they had a nice park, and they actually had a little puppet theater in there, and they used to do a puppetry festival. So we'd go there, elementary school, like sixth grades into middle school, seventh
Hmm.
grade,
Hmm.
and we used to put together basic shows.
Hmm.
But the thing that got me into more of the Muppet type stuff was I saw a special on Channel 13 called The Muppets on Puppets,
Hmm.
and it was a 1 hour special about
Hmm.
basically the
Hmm.
history of the Muppets. Great little piece. So, and then they showed you a little something. They had Donald Saleen, who was the original builder for Jim, building all the
Hmm.
puppets. and he showed how to build basic foam puppet. So I ran out the next day to the fabric store and found some urethane foam in a roll. And the thing they didn't explain on the thing was to use contact cement or like adhesive that would grab the foam right away. So as a kid, if you can imagine this, I glued together urethane foam with Elmer's glue.
Oh no.
And what I would do is I'd cut the pieces and I'd pin them together, put the glue on, I put them together, and I would stick little satin pins all over the place and then let it sit. But what that did make is all the seams on the puppets were hard and crusty because it's Elmer's glue.
Yeah.
But then we learned about contact cement, and I used to do that in my bedroom. My mother would come and say, "Why does it smell so bad in here? Open the windows." And I'm like, killing myself as a kid.
We didn't even know that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's puppetry. Most of the stuff we use is you have to be a little careful with it, even the stuff. But so from that, I started doing like birthday parties and stuff, and to make in my high school years, we had a color TV studio in the high school, which was really nice, and it was being used. So I got to go in there with my friends, and we would knock out puppet tapes, and then teachers saw us doing this stuff. So then we started making teaching tapes with puppets in there. And then came my senior year trying to figure out, what to do with this guy. I was working on theater productions in the school and stuff, and I was this puppet guy, and I was the art guy, But where do you go? What do you do for puppetry? So they sort of were steering me more in the direction of television production. So I started looking into schools, and was going to go and learn about producing TV. So I went to Pratt Institute one weekend with my parents, not to see Pratt, which is in Brooklyn, but big college day. So all of the schools are there. Going to be there, and I was going to talk to them about film. So of course, and they asking you, what's your interest? And so my mother's like, he's a puppeteer. He likes to do puppets. So through that, I met George New, the head of the theater department at Pratt, who was a puppet guy, and Kermit Love taught there and all the stuff. So it all kind of became like, suddenly now I'm going to Pratt and then I'm going to do puppets. So from that, I started working for Kermit. Through Kermit, I got to meet Jim and started. I was mostly just a performer for Jim Henson when we first started. I built stuff at Kermit's shop. There were three of us there. And then ultimately, Kermit closed his shop down, and we had to, he retired. He thought we should all retire. I was 21, so I was like, no, that's not going to work. So the three of us that we worked at Kermit's shop opened up our own shop, and from that we started doing television commercials and TV shows, and it just sort of steamrolled. It's not a very competitive field. I mean, it's a very small pool. So once you make your mark, you get in somewhere. Like we were really in with R. Greenberg Associates in New York. They did a lot of movie trailers and commercials, and they were a big special effects house. So they had special effects done the way we were doing it, puppet angle. So we became valuable to them, and then we opened our shop. We had our shows and so on and so forth. I ended up back at Henson years later as a builder, and I do most of them. And there you go. In like 3 minutes, I've compressed 45 years.
Well, the thing about it, going back to when you said that, you saw that documentary with Don Saline, that's the first thing I saw. I saw that, and then they had a behind the scenes of Muppets and Men that they would show on public television here. Like they had like the information station here, and they would show those things sometimes. And I saw that as a kid, and that's what kind of like opened it up. Like, hey, I can do this maybe, And so we all start from the same place sometimes. You never know.
Yeah. Books and the great thing about puppetry is you're inspired by that. You're not going to do exactly what they do.
No,
but juices flowing, and the
Mhm.
creativity,
Mhm.
and you find your niche. I mean, I sort of fell into the whole mechanism thing because I just got so tired, trying to use puppets with mechanisms that were, really difficult to operate,
Mhm.
so over
Mhm.
just when they broke, they're really hard to fix.
Mhm.
Just started doing it, and then it just steamrolled from there. And now it's mostly what I do now.
Just the
I mean,
mix.
the puppets I'm building now for this, it's a new web series. I'm not supposed to talk about specifically what it is, but it's a little rod puppet, little bug
Mhm.
puppet,
Mhm.
about 8 tall, and it's
Mhm.
done against three puppeteers on this little character, and the backgrounds are all computer generated.
Mhm.
So, and then there's a human host.
Mhm.
So they shot those. When did they shoot those? Right between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Mhm.
Got like 20 episodes or
Mhm.
26 episodes.
Mhm.
They're cleaning it up, and there's a
Mhm.
character at the end that I'm making now that I guess I can tell you it's a son. It's a son puppet. Originally it was going to be animation. They decided
Mhm.
they love the puppet. Let's make it a puppet. So that's what I'm doing now, and that we're going to shoot here because they shot the back plates in Ireland where they were shooting
Okay.
this show.
Okay.
So go in, and the girl's voice is there, so you just have to lip sync to it. So
Oh,
no lines, to very
no
simple.
lines to learn. You could just be the puppeteer.
Yeah, best way. So
So going back again from your condensed puppetry journey, um, from Don Saline to Kermit Love, like is there like a gap there? Like did Don Saline just do like the Muppet Show things in Sesame Street and then he stopped and Kermit Love picked it up there?
no, Donald actually, unfortunately, he died in 1978. I got to meet him a couple of times,
Really?
and I met him at the Muppet Shop,
Okay.
and heart attack, and I think he died in his apartment. So
Oh no.
I think he was like only like 58, maybe he was 60, somewhere around there. So that was so I went to Pratt in 76. So yeah,
Hmm.
so within the first 2 years, Donald died. So they were in the middle of the Muppet Show productions, shooting all that stuff over in England,
Hmm.
and they Donald. So, but Donald had done a lot of movies in the past, The
Hmm.
Time Machine,
Hmm.
uh, and a lot of stop motion. Donald's big thing was also stop motion. He'd worked
Okay.
on a lot of early Hollywood films that have stop motion in them, like The Brothers Grimm,
Hmm.
Tom Thumb. And he was a lot of effects stuff. And he actually worked with Bert Tillstrom with the Kuklapolitans.
Okay.
He maintained their puppets for him. So Donald had done a lot of puppet stuff and that type of stuff before Muppets.
Hmm.
But again, what was cool with the Muppets at that time was that it was all fresh and new, and everything was
Hmm.
like, anything goes.
Yeah.
It was like fun. That's that's what you try to do all the time. Everybody wants the Muppet Show, but you say, well, let's do something other than the Muppet Show. Let's
Hmm.
try to tie,
Hmm.
or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, Not that easy to do, but
No, it's not.
it's
It's not. They've been trying. Yeah.
but I mean, I
Yeah.
teach. You try to inspire because I'm pretty much. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'm on the verge of retire. I'm 65, so I'm pretty
Hmm.
much doing like the big jobs and all the corporate jobs. It's changed so much out there. The environment is
Hmm.
everyone's an expert,
Hmm.
and they're so afraid to try things because I mean there's so much I guess fear of children seeing. I mean the whole joy of using puppets is that you can get
Hmm.
away with
Yeah.
things that if you saw a kid doing it, you
Hmm.
know, or an adult even,
Hmm.
but puppets you kind of go, well, yeah, Cookie Monster, he's like, and breaks things and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's funny.
Hmm.
Even then, they try to soften it a little bit.
Yeah, they
So,
do. They do.
but it's still, my whole thing when I teach now, I try to just pass on my knowledge so that when people are trying to build something, they have that to go to. I
Hmm.
don't expect, I want them to just do what I do. I mean,
Hmm.
I didn't do Henson did. I sort of took it in my direction,
Hmm.
but I'm not gospel. My Mech way.
Hmm.
They're pretty good, but I know they can be. I mean, I don't build them the same way twice. Every time I build the same mechanism, I improve it. I use different materials. I do this, that, or the other thing. So it's one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'm sort of on the way out. But I'll probably still teach or something. We're thinking, it's still, that I like. I like, like when we do the kind of fun meeting people like yourself.
Yeah.
You who picked up that dog puppet, that mechanical. You've been doing it your entire life, and then, I think I accused when I asked, so you've worked these before? You said no. I was like, well, that was like one of the puppets who was afraid about casting because it's the thing to do, and it can't. That's kind of a cool. It's in you.
Yeah. It's in every one of us, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, what I'm trying to not get away from the puppets, but I don't want to stop being creative. So I'm working on. I do these sculptures now and stuff.
I've seen them, and I like them.
Yeah, my fish.
Yeah, I saw your fish. They look intense.
So,
they look really like what goes into a build like that.
Yeah, it's like some weird jigsaw puzzle for adults. I lay them out on a table, and then I don't like a day or two, and I come back and I start rearranging the pieces, or I swap pieces out, or you get a new piece, you find something, at a flea market or something, you go, wow, that would work great. So it's just how you see things, and then the people I've sold a few of them, and then I'm actually like amazed that the people that get it really get it.
Yeah,
but I guess that's either get it or you don't.
You don't, yeah.
You buy it or you don't.
Yeah. So let's get into some mech talk. From being just a regular puppet builder with Kermit and a performer and stuff, how did you go about like doing mechs? Like the stuff that you do shows like there's a lot of thinking and a lot of engineering behind it. And it's from the outside, now that I know what you've done, like I look for all the things that I know Jim built this and he built that and he built that, and it's so seamless. How did the Kroupa mech start? Because that's what everybody calls it.
Yeah, well, when I worked at Kermit's, one of my partners, one of the people I worked with then, who became one of my partners when we opened up our own shop, John Orberg, he went to Pratt also, and he was I believe he was an engineering major originally, but then when he started the theater major, he switched over. So when we were at Kermit's, John built a lot of the mechanisms from a totally different. I mean, I built too, but his was more from actually understanding mechanical principles. I have no engineering background whatsoever. So what I started doing was I make up samples, and a lot of times it's just popsicle sticks and pieces of wire, and you're gluing them together, and just to get basic movements and what doesn't. So I keep, really my mechanisms, the secret of my mechanisms is basically it's a handful of principles, and I just apply them differently. Whatever energy it takes to get an eye to pop open, an eyeball to turn, or whatever. It's all sort of cross related. So, and I always find keeping it really simple, because the thing is about a mechanism. There's no foolproof mechanism. We all own things that are mechanical, and they always break eventually. So they're super complicated to build. When you're on a set and something goes wrong, and you say, well, it's going to take me an hour or two to take this all apart and try to figure it out. The producers don't want to hear that. So I would keep it so simple that, you get right in there and you know exactly what's wrong, and you can fix it right away. So I started experimenting. And then, like I say, each build basically the same mech. I will change materials, change, samples, change principles, pull from a different spot. It's a lot of, I always call it fudging. Like even when I put the mech together, when we work at, everybody gets their mechs all together and they're all kind of working. So then we always I take 5 minutes of each person's mech with their mech, and we'll fudge it, and I'll just get it working better, I mean, a lot of the stuff we used to do in the past, like we did a lot of commercials, and
Hmm.
commercials are, kind of cool to work on because whatever mech you're doing, it really only has to last about 3 or 4 days,
Hmm.
and that doesn't anymore, unless it's a character, of course. But a lot
Hmm.
of the stuff we would effect stuff. So, but when you're working on a TV show that you're going to be shooting for 14 weeks, um, yeah, we don't. You got to sort of like approach it. You know, keep it simple, easy to fix, and don't put anything in there that you don't feel comfortable about. That's why I never work on the. I always work for a flat fee because I'll get halfway through the bill not working, and I'll
Hmm.
just start. It's on me.
Hmm.
It's like if
Hmm.
you work at one of the shops. You say, I'm going to throw away what I just did. I'm going to start over those last 3 days. You just paid me for. You know,
Hmm.
want to I want to hear that. They want you to sort of like nail it the first time. And I'm like, well, I'm not that guy. I don't do crazy mechanical drawings. I make notes. I'll take photos and, you know,
Hmm.
but so, yeah, so keeping it really simple. And I also, the other thing I do on all my mechanisms, I standardize my screws
I was
and
just about
bolts.
to say that.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
that way I've taken apart mechanisms that are held together with 6 different types of screws, and so you need 6 different tools, and then you got to keep track of what one went where, and that. So if they're all standardized, you got one Allen wrench, it all fits,
Hmm.
or or one small screwdriver, and it all comes apart. I mean, it's just makes your life simpler, um, going forward. I mean, a lot of people build that way because a lot of people don't necessarily follow the puppet into the studio and are one of the performers. I've always been that. Any of the shows we've done over the years, I've always been one of the performers,
Hmm.
and so there's the value of that. I'm there, and if something's going, I'll say, all right, don't use it. And at lunch, I'll take it apart and fix it. I've done that a few times. Although I got to be honest with you, as I've gotten better with them, the breakdown um, thing is a lot less frequent. So knock on wood.
Yeah.
That goes.
Well, I mean, it's been how many years now, you said? 45 years of this?
Well, I professionally since
Uh-huh.
'77.
Yeah.
Before that, though, I started building Muppet style puppets. I was probably in fifth grade. So that would have been like in the mid '60s, mid to late '60s, somewhere in
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, it's a long time.
That's a
And some
long
of them,
time.
the urethane puppets seem to live on. All the Scott foam puppets just rot away.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have puppets.
Elementary that are still around, so
Yeah.
they're like 50 years old. Huh? So,
Yeah. That's awesome. You know, it's you know crazy and amazing to think about like your story of getting where you got because you said you walked into Pratt. Your mom said, "Hey, good old Mother Krupa, he's into puppets," and you were on your way to Henson, and at that point in time, I mean, I think he had revolutionized puppetry for television or in the world. And what was it like, finding yourself on that street and seeing what's happening and puppeteering behind the scenes?
oh yeah, no, it was pretty wild. I mean, I was one of those guys like um, when I first started work on Sesame Street. It was season 15. We just shot. I got to work on the Muppets Take Manhattan.
Hmm.
And from that, I went into Sesame Street, and I was one of those new young people. And most of the puppeteers who have been there and ever, they would when they're done, they walk off the set and they go in the green room, or they go down and get some coffee, or they're off whatever. I'm just like glued to the set, watching Jim and Frank and Jerry and Richard, Fran, watching all the group, the primo
Hmm.
group,
Hmm.
and just watching everything they do. I mean, like of course they had been working together for years and years and years too.
Hmm.
You learn each other's timings. I mean, that kind of happened for me with when I worked a lot with Noel McNeil. We
Hmm.
did Eureeka together, Bear in the Big Blue House. We did all these shows together, and you become like you know each other's timing. So the the puppetry part just flows naturally between the two. And sometimes it takes a while to get that, and sometimes it's right off the bat. But when I was on the Sesame Street set in the beginning, those early years, man, I never left the set. I was just watching. And 9 times out of 10, well, not 9 times out, but quite often, Jim would see me sitting there. He says, "Hey, grab that other thing over there. Let's put you in the background." So you end up working more too. But it was a blast. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it was like if you idolize somebody, everybody. I have a short list of people. Most of them, I would never have gotten the chance to meet, like Charlie Chaplin.
Oh yeah.
Laura. People like that, where I just thought, wow, like great comedic timings and just great filmmakers and great writers and stuff. So over the years, I was lucky enough in the right place at the right time, to get to work with a lot of these people. And it changes. I mean, a lot of them are gone. I mean, everybody, it's kind of sad, but I'm just so happy that I got to be there, so.
Yeah. And if you think about it, if you think about the trajectory of revolutionary things in film and television and all these things, you basically touched the last guy that did anything amazing in television, I think.
Yeah.
Because he's right there with Charlie Chaplin and Laurel and Hardy, like Jim and Frank and everybody there. Those were the guys that did something amazing, And the thing about that is that they, as you said, they were like the core guys that you got to see there. And it really, and I always tell everybody, it really shows the people who internalize that. Like, I mean, I've met you and Pam and Marty at the O'Neill, and you all resonate that. You all give that much love and that much passion towards puppetry at the O'Neill that I come home and I do the same thing. I try my best to share that. And the same thing, you said you would sit there and just sometimes look at what they were doing. And I don't know if you noticed, but I did the same thing at the O'Neill. I probably never left the barn. When everybody was out on a break, sometimes I would just be lying down there and looking at you and Joe doing stuff in the background, just watching what you guys were doing. And sometimes Joe would be like, you could go outside. I was like, I don't want to.
Yeah, it's good to get yourself involved. I mean, I've always been involved on most shows or worked on many levels. Part of that makes you extra valuable. Like, I'll tell you a quick funny story. When I worked on Helpsters for Apple TV, they did an audition for that. So they sent out an email, and I got the email to audition, and I look at it, and it's got like 70 people on the email, come and audition for this new puppet show. So I'm looking down the list, and I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm like the worst auditioner. You either hire me or you don't. Don't go by my. I just don't. That's not how I. That's not. I don't know. For whatever reason, that's not the way my head works. Put me on a studio floor, hand me a puppet, and I'm off and running. So I kind of ignored the email, and then the time came and went. You could either send in a tape or go in and do a live presentation, audition, and I ignored all that. So anyway, the time came and went, and then I get a second email thanking my participation in the auditions for Helpsters, and I'm like, well, it's obviously like I'm just still on the list. They haven't taken me off the list. So then maybe 2 weeks or so go by, and I get an email from one of the producers from Helpsters saying, welcome to the show, Jim. So glad to have you. And I'm like, okay, now they got the wrong Jim. They must think they're talking else. So I called my buddy Tim Lagasse, who is one of the puppet captains on the show and was doing one of the main characters. And I said, hey, Tim, the weirdest emails. I said, I just got an email from Michael, and he's like welcoming me to the show. He goes, no, no, you're on the show. We got to have you on the show. So I said, well, I didn't know. He said, doesn't matter. No, I said from the beginning, we got to have Kroupa on the set because he's our problem solver. He'll fix this. He'll fix that. And, and that was probably the one and only time I ever got a job, not actually trying to get a job. The reputation. You
Uh-huh.
build.
Yeah, yeah. You build that reputation. Yeah.
I'll tell you a secret. When I used to work on like Bear in the Big Blue House, we shot like 4 or 5 seasons, and that time we were having oh, actually, and even the end of Eureeka's Castle when we were doing
Mm-hmm.
that, we started having children, my wife and I. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody always thought I was being so helpful on the set and resolving issues and keep us shooting this, that, I think. And what they really didn't know is, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if I'm not home by 7:30 tonight, I don't see my kids at all today because I leave before they get up.
Uh-huh.
I get home at 8 o'clock. They're all in bed already. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to wait.
Mm-hmm.
So my ulterior motive was to get home and see my children, off that and run home and see my kids.
The things
But
that dad does.
yeah, well, that's one of the things I like. Get back to what I was saying. When I teach my class, I always tell everyone, you got to diversify yourself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Don't a single specialist. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot want to just be performers and not builders. And I said, well, that's great, except you probably won't work year round. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're both, you'll find work if you're a builder.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a wonderful theory, which I think is 100% true. If you're both a builder and a performer of puppets, because you're a builder, you're a better performer because you understand puppetry and construction.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're and if you're a puppeteer and you build, you understand how to build a better puppet because you're not going to make it weigh 10 pounds. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to make those difficult, which was always my stickler. I say my attitude is if the mechanism is really hard to work, guess what? The puppeteer is not going to use it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make it full and easy to use. Whether it's both ends. Inside the
Mm-hmm.
head is nice, and then the trigger end, wherever it is. If the
Mm-hmm.
trigger's inside the head, you with a finger, or if you have an arm wire, you have one of my controls that's on the arm wire handle.
Mm-hmm.
Me, that's all a part of the performance and making it as easy. Because the thing is, it's like lip sync. People always say, "How do you do lip sync?" I said, "I don't do lip sync. It just you have to get to the point with lip sync on puppetry that if you have to think about getting the lip sync right, the rest of the performance is doomed.
Yep.
Most of the time, what you're thinking about, other than getting your lines correct, is where your puppet is in the space of the TV screen and
Mm-hmm.
where your eye.
Mm-hmm.
That's what your lip sync is so automatic.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, a lot of people you ever see people standing offside, waiting for to come on or waiting for get the shoot going, and they're running the music, and the person will be standing and they're not even realizing they're lip syncing their puppet, holding it down alongside of them, singing the song we're about to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
Just that you got to get it to that
Yeah.
automatic state.
It has to be second nature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's the thing.
So,
I think eye lines are more important than lip sync because if you look at like older stuff with like Jerry and Frank, their eye lines are there, but their beats are sometimes pretty off or doesn't. If you really if you're a stickler for it and you look at it, you'll see that hey, some people do it exactly on the beat and some people don't. Because
yeah,
I always tell people if you look at Steve Whitmire perform Kermit and you look at Jim performing Kermit, they're two different Kermits. And I love
yeah,
seeing that difference. Like Jim brought a different life to Kermit, but then with Steve doing Kermit, Steve has a way about putting breath into things. Like I don't
mm,
know how he does that. He makes Kermit like he'll be speaking and he'll make him swallow a little bit. Like he'll
yeah.
do little things like he'll scratch his chest while he's performing and it's like who does that? Who thinks about these things?
Yeah.
And I guess it's because it becomes second nature in your performance in that he he makes sure that he puts so much life into this character that it's not we know it's a puppet, but we know he's real at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and a lot of that stuff, if you're doing a character,
Hmm.
great about like working on like a show is that
Hmm.
you're going to do a character for a whole bunch of episodes,
Hmm.
so you have that to develop very unique gestures,
Hmm.
laughs,
Hmm.
uh, aches.
Hmm.
Because the thing is, like it's like I always find it interesting. Like if I'm in a show and I'm not like one of the principals, and everybody tries to perform like at 100 miles an hour to get the laugh.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be my character that will play the scene at 25 to 30 miles an hour and get more attention because there isn't 20 manic puppets running around. It's that one that's just like standing there looking around like, like reacting.
Mm-hmm.
It's that whole, this is one of the things I learned from Kermit Love. His whole thing when we were doing commercials is he'd always, the agencies, the people from the agencies would want the puppet to do like, a zillion things at once.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're always explaining to them, no, less is more.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to talking, trouble with a lot of commercials when you get these sometimes, an average commercial, let's say, is 28 seconds, second in, second out, and they'll write 27 seconds worth of dialogue. It doesn't give the puppet any chance to react.
Mm-hmm.
It's this whole thing. Puppets don't act, they react. It's very difficult all this to also do a take. So you have to incorporate take. So we used to sit down with them and say, look, can't we shorten the dialogue? Get rid of some of the dialogue, and then we'd perform it for them and they'd see it. They say, oh yeah, we got to get that gesture in. Well, you're only going to get that gesture if I'm not flapping my mouth, delivering more words than I need to. So it's, it's this crazy art. And because it's art, there's no right or wrong. But that's kind of the cool part of it. You could, like you say, you give Kermit to me to perform, I'm going to perform too. Otherwise it becomes just an imitation. Basically everybody's passing away. So, Sesame Street, most of the puppeteers have been picked up, most of the puppets have been picked up by other puppeteers. And to a certain extent, they have to sort of stay within the basic guidelines of cooking Big Bird and stuff like that. But they will naturally bring their own essence to it.
Yeah, they will.
That's fine. Yeah. Actors, it's the same thing, If everybody was the same, it'd be a boring show.
It would be. It would be. Yeah.
That's it. That helped.
And you're back.
We're back.
You're back for the second half of things.
What's that?
I said, since you're back for the second half of things, I'm gonna get to the O'Neill, and we're on to another, season of the O'Neill this year, and you're gonna do your Mech class. But let's talk about the Howdy Do show. Part 3.
Part 3?
It's gonna be a part 3.
Well, I think we have. We've been talking about it. Just I got together with Joe DiTullio the other day, and we brought it up. And it's like one of the, between parts 1 and 2, you have enough probably to do an hour easily, and you can easily pass it out. I just don't know what, whether it's worth. I watch Marty when he does his live shows, and it's a hard thing to put together a live show. It's like really do like not even a puppet show, like literally a theatrical piece. Cost and everything. So then I'm thinking, well, do you put it together as a package and try to sell it into an amusement park like Dollywood? Stuff. But I don't know. I haven't I figure once I really sort of retire the next, let's say, in this somewhere, we'll start thinking seriously about what to do with it, because it was a blast.
It was.
Everybody. It got well received, I thought.
That night was crazy.
Yeah, even my kids came and saw it, and my daughter and my middle guy Brian, Kim and Brian, were there, and they're pretty harsh, tough critics. They're very honest, and they really liked. Even especially when my daughter said it, she said, "Dad, that was really was a good show." My son's only comment was, because we were first. Then the last piece was that piece with the guns falling out of
the pooping guns.
And it was like, Brian was like, oh, after that, I needed to see the Howdy Do show again.
Yeah. It went from really happy to really dark, really fast.
Yeah.
And the
So I
night
said,
progressed that way if you really look at it. Like all the performances they had, the night really progressed that way. Like it went from like light and then it just got darker and darker until we reached
yeah,
the poop guns.
yeah.
Yeah. But that's
Well,
the O'Neill, right?
yeah, it's the O'Neill.
That's the
But when
O'Neill.
I did, it was so funny because, I always, Pam had kept asking me to be a guest artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, at that point, when she first started asking me, I hadn't even gone to the final night shows, the
Mm-hmm.
full week. I
Mm-hmm.
was there, I met class and I'd be out of there. So when I saw what was being done, I thought, oh, well, maybe I could put something together. Obviously, in my mind, I'm thinking, how do you get a show pulled together in 3 days? Well, you don't really. You sort of get it as pulled together as you can
As
get
you
it.
can, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when I did the first one, my main concern about my shows was I thought, were they theatrical enough? Because they're basically, it's kind of like, it's almost like a TV show being done on the
Yep.
stage.
Mm-hmm.
But on the second one, I learned so much from the first one from a theatrical standpoint. Like in the first one, we only had Grandpa Jimbo. He had no
Mm-hmm.
sidekick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right off the bat, I learned, wow, you can't count on the audience because he's trying to have a conversation with
Yep.
the audience,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't always respond what you.
No,
So
no.
now we need a sidekick. So that's
Mm-hmm.
when we came doing Jack, the Jackass, and I thought that it was actually kind of a different take on it.
Mm-hmm.
Not typical two-man horse or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it was fun. But after that, to me, it's like, I mean, again, when I show up with these shows, I mean, I had it was pretty much thought out in my head. I mean, the first show I did, the funniest thing was day one, the O'Neill people came up to me and said, "Do you have your script? We can make copies for you to give everybody." And I was like, "Script? It's all up here,
Yeah.
but I'll see what I can do." So somebody, I was just somebody was taking really good notes, and they kept
Mm-hmm.
handing them in. So the second one, I actually wrote an actual script, and then again, not having a theatrical background other than in high school, and even then, most of the time I was lighting and I would build the scenery and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anything about like producing or directing a show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I was ever even in any of the shows. I mean, we did talent shows in high school, but in the actual productions, I wasn't an actor. I didn't want to be an actor on stage.
Mm-hmm.
I did one in college. I was we did a cabaret thing, and they wanted me to do it, and I said no, only if I can play the clown. The Jerry
Yeah,
Lewis.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I said that's the only way you get me on stage. So that's why I ended up being the stooge, if you will. So that was fun. But the Howdy Do show, it's like, so I'll show up with the show, but I don't know if I made it clear enough without blatantly saying it that this is just a starting point. If you guys feel like doing something, just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't want that to happen, I'll let you know. But to me, I don't want to stifle any performance that
Mm-hmm.
what I want. You walk from here to there and do this, and you walk back. I don't like. I mean, I've directed films,
Mm-hmm.
puppet films.
Mm-hmm.
That even then, I don't do that. I know we have to get shot wise, and reaction wise, but performance wise, I want you to. I'm that way. I don't like rehearsing when we do TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll rehearse it for the cameramen so they can block it and stuff, but I don't want to do the lines 2 or 3 times and then now I got to decide how I want to do it for the take.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll try 2 different actual takes. I'll be messing around um, and try things. In the old days when we did like Eureeka's Castle and the earlier shows, Gullah Gullah Island and stuff, it was all 3 camera shoots cut
Mm-hmm.
live.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of do that. Now, so much of it is single camera shoot, and then they go back and go for close-ups that you sort of then you can't. You go like, well, which one you're going to use, or on the close-ups you got to cover your bases and deliver the line 2 different ways or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But But when I'm like doing my shows, to me, the O'Neill always asks you, what do you want, and who do you want for your show? What kind of puppeteers? I said, well, we need some shadow people because we got Nappy coming in with his shadow puppets. But I want people that know how to puppeteer. I'm not here to teach people here. I'm expecting a puppeteer, and I'm just going to hand them puppets, and we're going to figure this out and work on the show, not on the skill. It's like my daily, you're supposed to know how to use tools, a bandsaw, a drill, and they tell me all the time. Yeah, people lie all the time because you can just tell the person that's never used a bandsaw, and you say, okay, you don't get to use the bandsaw, John. Cut these pieces.
Yeah,
I don't want anybody getting hurt.
Yeah.
But I know people want to learn, and you don't need power tools to build puppets. I mean, maybe a nice drill is important. You could. In the old days when I worked for Kermit's shop, we had no bandsaws or anything. We used hand tools, and we used the only thing we had was electric carving knives, like you cut a turkey up with.
Yeah.
The blades going like this. That's what we would rough the heads out with if we were carving them or something.
Yeah. Those actually carve really well though. Like,
yeah.
I see Adam use those things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam does that a lot. Yeah. So
not turkey though, but really good for foam.
For foam, yeah. Terrible for turkey, but not so good. but on
Can't
foam.
get a.
So before Howdy do part 1 and part 2, you did the Mech class exclusively for the O'Neill. That's the only thing that you did at the O'Neill. How long ago did you start doing that? Like, when did you start doing that?
Oh, I want to say last year was like the 16th year of doing it. So 16 years ago.
That's a long time.
Yeah. But the very first time that I did it, so it wasn't really the Mech class. It was, I was a guest speaker and I gave a lecture and I samples, and I was in the Merrill Theater, and we had a video projection. Actually, Tim was there, and he was helping me out. And as I was talking about things, he'd zoom in on the big screen behind me, the Mech, see how they're working. And I was explaining materials and my process. So out of that came, what did you think about teaching a class? So I said, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good thing. So the first year we did it, the following year, I don't know, maybe we had 15 people in there. And it was so funny. I had to decide, make a Mech, I just basically showed up with a bunch of materials and a sample Mech. And then we went piece by piece by piece, cutting it on the bandsaw. It was 15 people, everybody's waiting online to do things. And my concern was, can we get it done in 3 days? Because it's a 3. Well, by the end of the first day, we were practically done with the Mech that I brought because it was such a simple thing.
Yeah, everybody
was like really, into it. So that's when we started slowing it down. I started telling the stories about things, stories, all the weird things that happen, or the bad things, or the people I've got to work with and stuff. And then we started enlarging the class over the years. And at one point we had it was up to 20 people, and it was maddening. So we cut back on the amount of people. Then what I do now is I pre-make kits, because I found that a lot weren't comfortable on the bandsaw, and most of the parts I cut, it's just a lot easier to cut them on a bandsaw. So I pre-cut a lot of stuff, and everybody would got like a little bag with all the parts in it, and we go step by step by step, teaching people how to, drill a hole and tap it, so you can put a bolt in. Take, real basic skill, but you'll do it all the time. In the class, we also go over materials, and where to get them.
Mhm.
It's one thing to tell people about Delrin and Teflon tubing. It's
Mhm.
like, where do you get it? So I actually give a packet out every year, and it
Mhm.
has all places to order stuff and get. And again, I like to standardize, so it's not like you're going to order 200 different nuts and bolts and pieces of rubber and this, that, and the
Mhm.
other. It's a short list.
Mhm.
So from there, and then Pam started bugging me about doing the show. So my answer always was, every time she asked me about next year, well, you want to be a guest artist? I said, I'll do the 25th anniversary. I kept saying, I'll do the 25th anniversary.
Mhm.
And then finally, the 25th anniversary was going to be the following year. And Pam's like,
Mhm.
remember we? So that's when we did the first Howdy Do show. So, yeah. That's a blast. I really enjoyed doing it because,
Mhm.
it's kind of like the business is funny. I mean, it's like any job, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
You for a while, you do it for 40 years. It's what it is.
It
But what's
becomes licking stamps.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, but what's cool about the O'Neill is I find as much as my participants get a whole bunch out of my class, learning basic mechanisms, skills, and materials and stuff like that. It actually energizes me because you see that hunger again. You
Mhm.
see that,
Mhm.
and every now and then people question me and make me think about what I'm doing because I've become pretty much set in my ways,
Mhm.
uh, even though I sort of slightly change things and make things a little better or figure different things out. I mean, I used to do all these crazy triggers. My original
Mhm.
ones were big, funky, and then they became more and more streamlined. And
Mhm.
now they're like, it's. And I'm sure if somebody, with the 3D printers we have today, which I'm
Oh
not a
yeah.
fan, I'm not a
Mhm.
huge fan. Although I've changed my mind a little bit. They have the nylon plastics,
Mhm.
but I found the 3D printing plastic is it's a little too pliable and
Yeah.
soft.
Mhm.
Well, I like to use Delrin and stuff, but we had Henson. We were building some things, and this guy made 3D printed pieces out of nylon,
Yeah.
and they were very nice pieces. But I don't know. To me, it's like, yeah, it makes sense to spend the time figuring it all out and doing multiples and then you have to reprogram it to change it a little bit. And
Mhm.
finally, that's all fine and great if you're going to need 150 of them.
Yep.
But I just need the one because I'm building this Mech, or I bang out a couple more for me. But, it just seems like a lot of work.
Mhm.
But I guess that's your thing. To you,
That's
it's
the thing.
probably,
Yeah. If that's the
yeah,
thing, that's the thing. I was talking to Joe last year because I know he did the 3D printing class last year, and he was saying, something. I liked that class, but I can do this in like 5 minutes
yeah,
with tools, with hand tools. He's like, I can do this in 5 minutes with hand tools. But I
yeah,
mean, it's always good to learn some kind of a technology, the new technology. And I think that's what drove the Muppets to become what they are because Jim was always interested in new things. And he,
yeah.
he kept revolutionizing the things that he did. And it's always good to have a new perspective. And, sometimes a fresh new pair of eyes could show you something like, hey, I could do this with that, you know?
Yeah,
And
no, I'm sure
yeah.
there's a million applications to it. That I don't because I just don't have that background that I don't
Hmm.
see.
Hmm.
If I hired somebody and they wanted to bang out the pieces, hey, if it works, that's what you want to do. You go right ahead. I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of the stuff I buy, I buy a lot of radio controlled
Hmm.
from Dubro, which they say, oh, we could print those on 3D for you. I said,
Hmm.
well, yeah, but I get immediate satisfaction.
Yep. I don't have to wait for you to perfect this thing.
So
Yeah.
but I get it, it's that whole new technology thing. I mean, look,
Mhm.
we look at film in general now.
Yeah.
We shoot commercials now. In the old days when we were doing all the Snuggle commercials, the
Hmm.
Snuggle Fabric Softener,
Hmm.
what we went by the rods because there was no rod cleanup
Hmm.
then. And then the last one I shot when we were still doing it at Henson, we get on the set and what they want. I said, "Oh, I can rig the rod." They said, "No, nah, just work it from off the side of the stage there, out of frame. we'll wipe it out in post. So you got this
Hmm.
big fat arm there going right across the shot,
Yeah,
and no concerns. So I'm thinking, oh, okay,
that's
I
easier.
suppose
Yeah, and I think
gives
most
everybody.
people. Mhm. I think most productions now take the rods out. Like I look at like newer Muppet stuff or any and like it's standard now that people take the rods out, but I get that it cleans up the shot. I get that some people like the fact that it looks more lifelike or real or gives it some realism, but they're puppets. It's a puppet,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we were.
it's
My answer always that was, we were doing a shoot, and they say, "Oh, we saw a lot of arm wire in that shot,"
hmm
and I would always say, "What arm wire?" I said, "If that's what you're seeing, you're not watching the show."
hmm
You know?
I always remember when the first time I saw Jack come out, and I was like, he's a little big for a donkey. He looks like a horse, and you looked at me and you were like, he's a puppet.
Oh, oh yeah,
You're like you're like he's a puppet. He doesn't have to be anatomically correct.
yeah. Yeah, you also
Yeah.
the whole got to stick a human in there.
Yeah, you gotta
So
stick a guy in there. Yeah.
throw your out the window.
I think that's what John said to me. He's like, I don't think if he made it little, what's the gentleman that was in there again? I can't remember his name. Uh,
John.
that's John Cody. It's John and John. I should know that. My bad. Yeah. You wouldn't fit in there. Makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because that's the only thing when we built the donkey for the show.
hmm
I said I got to precast this because you just can't with that and try to find somebody that can do it.
hmm
And it was a lot of experimentation because originally he had a support built in,
hmm
and he found that the support actually inhibited him
Yeah.
to the point of taking energy to work against the support.
Yeah.
Just do it like Big Bird. And the head on that donkey. I don't know if did you ever have the head on? Did you put the head on the
No,
jackass?
remember because of COVID, we
Oh
didn't
right.
really, yeah, just
Yeah.
at the end, when we were finished with everything, Stuff and I went there and kind of got in a little, but I didn't really get to like work the mech or anything. But it was
Yeah. Well, the
awesome.
head was
Yeah.
all made out of 200, and the head mechanical eyes and the big
hmm
mechanical lip. But for
hmm
that size head, it weighed nothing. So it was like, that's part of the key. Now,
hmm
it's part of that's just knowing how to build it.
hmm
And that, some people like tend, I mean, it depends upon what you're doing with it. I mean, something like we were doing, you wouldn't have to worry about this. But if you were sending it away to a show, let's just say it
hmm
was going, you're like, you got to like beef it up a bit because they're going to beat the crap out of it.
hmm
But yeah, it's I wouldn't do if we did a Dollywood version of our show.
hmm
I would change the like you see the full head to toe
Yeah.
jackass
hmm
once, but a lot of the time I'd have like a barn door open and it's just half him,
hmm
like there or
hmm
outside,
hmm
just to make it a more doable thing.
Yeah.
Because when you do shows in theme parks and on cruise ships and stuff, they're not really puppeteers. I mean, sometimes you get sort of a puppeteer.
Yeah.
They usually, on the site training.
Yeah.
So so you want to again build something that
It's
you're not
easy.
the person out of trying
hmm
to deal with it. Um, but yeah. But no, I mean, again, that show. I mean, Grandpa's show was only as good as the people who worked on it, and
hmm
both times I got like a great, yourself included in the second
hmm
batch, a good batch of people that
That was an
really,
amazing batch of people.
yeah, everybody
Yeah.
got along, no
Yeah.
issues or anything.
hmm
Uh, I can't tell how often, on a TV set, it's just, you stepped on my line, you did that, and I'm like, well, you know, I don't know. You're looking at this, whereas this is the whole screen. That's what I'm
hmm
looking at.
hmm
Fine, but people are funny, performers are funny.
hmm
Uh,
Yeah. And I know you said, that that show was inspired by those records that you found that time. You said it was some old country records or some old golden records with Brave Cowboy Bill and stuff. And
Yeah, my brother worked for a sound library in the
uh-huh,
city.
uh-huh,
Most of the day, they would get hundreds and hundreds of recordings, and he would download them all onto digital,
uh-huh,
and they filed away. I guess this is one of these places you go to and you're looking for some crazy song or a sound
uh-huh,
effect or whatever. So when it was CDs that he got, he had to burn the CD into the library system,
uh-huh,
and they were like, "Well, you just throw them away, or if you
uh-huh,
want to take them home, and take." So he would
uh-huh,
come up to the house with like boxes and boxes of CDs. And the one time he came up, there was a whole bunch of old country western music from the 40s,
uh-huh,
in the 50s, in the 60s. So at that time, I did a birthday party show with my kids
uh-huh,
at homes. They could hire us. So we had a music show that had all sorts of music in it. So I did a country western show, and that's kind of like the starting point for Grandpa Jimbo's
uh-huh,
large scale show,
uh-huh,
um, where except there we just played the record because I
uh-huh,
had my two puppeteer with me, and most of the puppets they worked were all mechanical with
uh-huh.
triggers and stuff. They couldn't do the lip sync thing, so
Yeah.
anything like. But yeah, I love. I think I think visually. So when I hear a song, I just see the potential of a puppet bit.
Uh-huh,
I'm sure Jim was the same way. He'd hear a
uh-huh,
song, and he heard that somewhere, and
uh-huh.
came up with stuff. So it's your mind takes over, and there's so much really amazing country western music out there
Yeah.
that is that on stage. Like when we did, did we show you the when we did the show? Did we show you the first
We saw
Grandpa?
some of it. We saw some of it.
Yeah,
I
did you
saw
see
some
the
of the first show. Yeah.
yeah? Did you see the stampede part where all
I
the
saw the stampede part with the little wiggling legs.
yeah the
Yeah.
guy getting over.
Yeah.
Like when I heard that song, it's just one of those songs that to me it was totally written to be a puppet act because
It
it's just
was.
like we just added a couple extra little sound effects.
Hmm.
Uh, but so and so most of the shows when I was doing the birthday parties with the kids,
Hmm.
which uh, when 9/11 happened,
Hmm.
yeah, like a lot of work just dried up. So there was nothing going on. So um, we started doing live shows at Christmas parties for offices and
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, from that, it branched out into the doing birthday parties for the people and their kids,
Hmm.
and it was fun because it's you look at the Howdy Do show, and it's like
Hmm.
that's like how the living room is like. It's not like most people think the puppet show. Hey, the two little puppets go, hey,
Hmm.
how you doing?
Hmm.
Hey, Merry Christmas. So,
Hmm.
uh, where we took it over the top, and people couldn't believe the mouth went around. So it was a good run there. And I went through all my kids. I saw Billy and Brian, and then it became Brian and Kim
Hmm.
that we were doing it. Original couple of shows we did. We did it. I did it with Peter Lentz.
Oh,
Um, we did the Rockefeller family Christmas party.
okay.
They get together at the holidays
Hmm.
at their fans family home, and they would hire this guy who was in the next town, a couple towns over, Paul Peabody, I think it was Peabody Marionettes,
Hmm.
and he beautiful,
Hmm.
beautiful, and well animated um, marionettes, but it was very very Victorian and
Yep.
stuff.
Hmm.
I mean, type of stuff that I'd sit there and say, "Wow, that's amazing," and get it to do that. Whereas you're dealing with little kids who are just want to see explosions or whatever.
Hmm.
So he did their Christmas party every year for like many many years, and to keep the little ones entertained while the
Hmm.
adults really doing their thing. So he unfortunately passed away one summer. So the woman who lived next door to Peter's house was the party coordinator for the
Hmm.
Rockefeller.
Hmm.
So she's looking for another puppet show, and she knew Peter was a puppeteer. There wasn't much work. So Peter calls me and says, "Hey," he says, so he starts explaining to me. He says, "What do you think? We put something together? They have money. It's the Rockefeller." So I said, "Yeah, sure." So we go into the meeting, and it's like, we don't have anything. I have some puppets from college, but don't have a stage, don't have anything. So they're asking us about the show. So I'm like, "Oh, it's a variety show with lots of different things, all different types of puppets, and be songs and this and that." Meanwhile, not really knowing, we have like a month or so. It's like
Hmm.
October, like till before Christmas to get it pulled together. So Peter had a couple of, and Peter had done birthday parties, I guess,
Hmm.
earlier on. So he had a couple of real simple bits. He said, "I'll do my baby thing," and this. I say, "All right, we'll do that." So the first couple we did were pretty simple, but they were pretty loud and elaborate, and there was a lot of insanity.
Hmm.
Uh, College bits, nothing offensive or anything in it or
Hmm.
anything. And it was so funny because the first time we did it at the Rockefellers, everybody brought in all the little kids, all the little
Hmm.
2, 3, get them to sit down, and
Hmm.
they all. By the end of our 30, and the show was only like 30 minutes. By the end of our 30 minutes, we come out to bow,
Hmm.
and there's adults standing everywhere. The
Hmm.
older kids are because they heard this insanity going on in the next room, and the
Hmm.
kids screaming, laughing, and they were expecting, I guess, the Paul Peabody.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you got like mayhem going on in the next room. You
And
know,
sometimes things like that when well, with my experience doing the same thing now, because that's what Dana and I do. When I get puppet gigs now, we do like birthday parties or events like that, and you realize like every crowd is not the same.
yeah,
You have the little kids in one preschool that go nuts when they see puppets, and then you'll have the kids that just sit still and they look at the show and they don't respond at all. Oh, our last bit that we did last year for Halloween, it was like a 4 hour stretch, but every hour we had to do the show for a different cast of kids, and every set was a different, very different response. And like even the
yeah,
parents, some of the parents really enjoyed it, and then some of the parents just wanted to just leave the kids there and walk through the haunted house and do the thing. And you'd have kids trying to pull the puppet off your hand and all these things, and you get to realize that you know it it's a crazy thing to be doing something like that, and kids just like mayhem of puppets, like they just see the things happening and they're so in awe. it it's two sides of a coin, like
yeah.
this.
Sometimes that
Yeah.
they're so quiet, though, I always think they're mesmerized.
Yeah.
And then you get those. One of the birthday parties we did was in Bedford, which is a
Hmm.
pretty part of New York,
Hmm.
very high end
Hmm.
club there.
Hmm.
And we went there and we did this. It was twins' birthdays, so it
Hmm.
was two girls.
Hmm.
So like 40 kids there.
Hmm.
Well, we got there and there was already mayhem, and I assumed they sugared these kids up
Oh
already
yeah.
or whatever.
Hmm.
So we're in there, and I got Kim next to me and Brian, and they're getting upset because the kids are just horrible.
Yeah.
They're and I looked at my daughter and I said, it's theater. It's real time. It does look. And I start going with the puppet. I said it, and the record's playing, and I'm going. It just doesn't matter at this point. This is
Yeah.
our audience.
Yeah.
So go through what you know about the
Yeah.
show.
Hmm.
Not worry about it. I said
Yeah.
there's probably a couple of quiet kids sitting there that are trying to watch the show.
Hmm.
Those are the ones, you know. But and that was the classic. That was one of those funniest things. This. I swear to God, this actually happened. So um, a lot of the shows we were doing, people would always ask, "Is it okay if we pay cash?" So I'm like, "Yeah, why? Are you printing it or something? I mean, what do you? Yeah, it's fine, you know." So we got to the show, and we did it this horrible with these twin kids.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, because it was actually around the holidays, every weekend
Mm-hmm.
we had one of those to do. People would always pay me, and they say, "Here's a little something for your kids." Like I'm making my kids do this for nothing.
Oh no.
I, Saturday on, he'd say, "I don't think I want to do the show next month, Dad, unless we get a raise." So I'd
Yeah.
have to give him 10, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, um, so we do this show with these horrible kids, and it's literally like the week before Christmas. And all I want to do, I just want to get out of there because I've had it, because it's like, so the woman says, "Oh, let me go get you, let me go get you paid." So she comes down and she pulls a check out of her checkbook, and I'm like, paying me a check. Okay, well, that's fine. All right. And I stick it in my pocket, and we get out and get into the car, and Brian's like, "Did you tip us, Dad? Did we get tips?" I said, "No, she didn't give us anything. I got a check." So I look at the check like this. I look in my pocket like that, and we were getting, at that time, we were getting like $350 for a half-hour show.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it was written numerically 350.00.
Mm-hmm.
So I said no. I said she gave us no tip. She basically just paid for the show.
Mm-hmm.
A week before Christmas. I said, well, that was kind of like tacky, but all right, whatever. We survived. None of the puppets got damaged.
Mm-hmm.
I get home and I pull out the check, and she wrote 350 numerically in the number thing, but she printed out, like when you write underneath
Yeah,
the
yeah. Mm-hmm.
in words,
Mm-hmm.
$3,500. So I'm looking at this, I'm going like, oh my God, she messed up the check. So I said, well, let's go to the bank. So I go to the bank, I hand it to the teller. I said, here's ones for you. Look, what would you cash that check for? She says, oh, we always go by the written amount. The numbers mean nothing.
Oh.
So I'm like, really? I said, well, that's a mistake, because it was only supposed to be 350. She
Mm-hmm.
says, well, so I'm thinking, she's probably, I mean, I'm thinking, is she one of those people that never balances her checkbook and
Mm-hmm.
won't even know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But and I was being honest. I said, no,
Yeah.
could you just cash it for the 350, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, whatever. So anyway, but yeah, you get groups like that all the time.
Yeah. Because
But that's great. It makes up for it. So
because like, do you realize like parents sometimes just let their kids loose on puppets, and like you have the kids that would just I had like I showed you that Anansi puppet I built. So he has 8 legs, and his legs are hanging off the stage, and they're holding the legs and they're pulling on it, and then they're poking at well, there's the screen in front of me, but you could
right,
kind of see me behind there because it's black material, but you could kind of see it. So they're poking at me through there, pulling on the
yeah,
arm rods, and it was crazy, but it was good. It was I learned now that you don't do the same show every hour for 4 hours because you're gonna die.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. It was,
All right,
but it was a great day. It was a great day because
yeah,
of that. Now, there's a literature festival that they do in Trinidad called Bocas Lit Fest, and they have a dragon puppet that they use. But the dragon puppet is like this thing that they bought on eBay. It's like a mascot type puppet thing. It doesn't have any movement, it doesn't talk, and the guy could only stay in there for 10 minutes because he overheats. So, I went to the meeting because they wanted me to do a puppetry workshop because that's what I do. I try to do workshops with people to teach, just like yourself. I just want to spread it, make people interested. And
right,
so I tell them, hey, if the guy can't stay in there, a hand puppet would do a lot better than that. And I was like, okay, you're gonna have to build us one. You know, Send in that invoice. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Because you convince them that this thing will be better than a guy just walking around bumbling in his suit overheating. And you can have a puppet that could interact with the camera and do TV appearances and all that, rather than a guy just in this
yeah,
cumbersome suit. So I have to
yeah.
build a dragon puppet.
Oh, good for you.
I don't
That's
know how
great.
to build a dragon puppet, but my
Uh,
my
nothing.
good creature shop Dana will be working on that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Got to the L200. Keep it light.
We don't get L200 here, so I'm
Oh,
using regular
that's
foam. Yeah.
this urethane. You mean like a urethane foam?
No, like the regular mattress foam. Like I don't know what you
Yeah,
call it. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, the Scott is, a lot of people use the Scott foam, but I find the Scott foam is a heavy foam. It's a very dense foam, so it's heavy.
yeah. That's the thing. Like, the dog puppet I have, Rover, his head is made out of that dense pink foam, and it's heavy. It
Hmm.
and it's just his head. The rest of his body is just fabric, but that head is heavy. Like
Yeah,
I could do like 1 minute like this, and then I need to put it down.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Or you get a puppet this all the time.
yeah, he does that a lot.
I would used to do Big Bird. You could always tell if the scene was long,
Hmm.
and he's Big Bird would always think for a minute. He'd bring the beak
Hmm.
down and he
Hmm.
put it up to his beak. That was
Hmm.
him giving his arm a break, and then he'd
Yeah.
go back.
Okay. Well,
Figure
Jim,
that's
we have less than a minute, and
okay.
so I just want to tell you, thank you for being here. I want you
Absolutely.
back on my show again sometime because
Yeah,
we have lots of stories to tell. I
absolutely.
had so much fun with you, and I just
Yeah,
want to tell you that, you know, it's Unima, it's Trinidad, and we're gonna do this until somebody listens to us.
yeah. Well, it's good. It's great. You're the guy stirring the pot there. Get it,
I am
get it.
stirring the pot. I'm
And
trying
then
my best.
you're a talented guy. You
Mhm.
do nice work, and all you need is the outlet, and that will happen because
Mhm.
someone's going to look. Wow, check that out.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
so it'll happen for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Happens sooner or
It does. It does.
later.
Yeah.
You got to believe.